Now, Johannesburg Water is facing challenges in maintaining water supply due to ongoing maintenance at Rand Water. The municipality system is now taking strain now that bulk supplier Rand Water has throttled its water supply for this planned maintenance. Many reservoirs remain critically low, prompting concerns about water storage capacity. Newzroom Afrika's Veronica Makhoali joins us now with an update. Veronica, this has been the discussion with Rand Water in the run-up to this maintenance program, right? The advice that's been given to residents and businesses was to not store water because that would put pressure on reservoirs. I imagine that has been the case anyway now, and that's why these reservoirs are under pressure.
Absolutely, Michelle. In fact, Johannesburg Water really taking initiative in regards to that, issue to take us through a tour of their infrastructure and to really understand really critically what happens when reservoirs and towers run dry. In fact, you'd also forgive me if I'm a bit out of breath. I am standing about 34 meters above the ground at the water tower at Grand Central in Midrand. I'm going to just walk towards here. If you can just hear that gush, that is essentially the water that has been stored in this tower. You can't see it, but hopefully you can hear it. And that is essentially the supply that Johannesburg Water is very much concerned about. You'd understand that Grand Central forms part of the Midrand system, and areas like this one will be affected come the 1st of July on Monday when Rand Water starts its work on the Palmeet system. And to talk to us a little bit about that, the issue of storage, the issue of making sure that there is proper preparation, I'm joined by Johannesburg Water's operation manager. That they just tell us a little bit more about Grand Central Tower, the area it feeds, and how residents should be preparing come the 1st of July.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Kukuletu Koma from Johannesburg Water Operations. And I guess this is one of opportunity to be so close to the infrastructure. As you were chatting, you can hear the water coming into the tower that you are standing in. If you look behind me, you will see a reservoir in about 1 kilometer away with the pump station. That water is being pumped from that reservoir, which is part of the storage for the greater Midrand area. The reservoir that is behind me is relatively 30 megaliters of storage, and this tower is one of the biggest that we have, slightly above 6 megaliters of storage. So this is the infrastructure that we have that will keep us going come the maintenance program starting on the 1st of July. And if you're looking on the left-hand side of me, you will see all the open land and development. They are currently supplied from this infrastructure that we stand. All the infrastructure that you see, the industrial, the airport, they are supplied from this tower. And this tower is not just supplying, it's also a navigation and also a landmark for Midrand because it identifies Midrand. When we stand on the ground floor, you will be able to see how it's been designed. It's a masterpiece of engineering, and you will see on the right-hand side that is the airport, where it's also using this tower as a landmark for the purpose of navigation. This infrastructure relatively have quite a big storage capacity that we should be able to keep us going for the first part of the maintenance, which is on the 1st, but it will definitely be affected because it is part of the integrated and interconnected Palmeet supply system.
Absolutely. And of course, while we're talking about storage capacity, we know now that Randburg areas, North Riding, those reservoirs are running not only critically low, but taps have essentially gone dry. Let's talk a little bit about recovery for some of the residents that are now feeling, of course, those supply constraints.
Thank you so much for that question. It is very important to understand when we are recovering and restoring the water systems, they are quite complex and they take time. The first 2 days will be where we are stabilizing the system, looking for airlocks, because when there is no water, the air is in the system. So we need to get rid of that air. So the first 2 to 3 days, we are still trying to recharge and flush the system so that the water can settle in and be able to fully charge on the system. Then the first week will now give us the retention. We're filling up the reservoir until the customers are fully supplied. Now the water will always follow the gravity. all the high-lying areas will always be restored last. And that's unfortunately, the water systems are quite complex in that sense, that the low-lying areas will have water continuously, while the high-lying areas will only be restored last. So we give us the first week to be able, after the completion of the maintenance, we'll start be able to gradually supply the areas until fully recovered.
Thank you very much for your time. There we've got Joburg Water Operation Manager really speaking about patience from residents as they continue to work on that maintenance done by its bulk supplier, Rand Water. We're just going to give you a view of this water tower that really speaks to Joburg Water's infrastructure. You cannot really see much, but you must understand that as my colleague goes inside to show you just the, the intricacies of this network, just the stairs going down there and seeing the work inside the tower, very, very down towards the bottom is where the pump station mechanism takes place. There are many electrical ports there, and that is obviously part of the efforts to pump water into homes. There is also a point here where water tankers are able to fill up, and this is obviously to ensure that they can get to residents in other areas where there isn't water. And of course, we know that this tower specifically has not yet been affected by that maintenance work, but come Monday, we will also start to see that supply constraints happening in this community. But for now, Joburg Water says and is, of course, urging residents to make sure that they prepare, but also to be considerate of issues of stockpiling, not to empty out infrastructure like this.
Veronica Makhoali, thanks very much indeed for that update. Yeah, it's incredibly interesting to see the infrastructure. I imagine you have quite a few stairs to get back down to the ground. Veronica, thanks very much indeed for that update.